Hello, viewers. Hope you are doing well today. In today's episode, we are going to discuss exciting news about NGINX. We are going to talk about why NGINX, even after almost 20 years of its first release and more than 10 years after its commercial release, has been retained or is seen as most relevant for the application developers even in the era of this AI. When Nginx became very popular, that time it was considered the most important part of that time's modern architecture, where microservices, appification, mobile first were the buzzwords, were the important considerations for application developers. In today's world, when we are talking about multi-cloud environment, hybrid cloud environment, machine to machine traffic happening, we are talking about use of AI, we are talking about edge network. In these times as well, how nginx is the key for the developer teams is what we are going to discuss. And to discuss this, we have a distinguished guest with us, Laurent Petroque. You will get to hear from him. He has spent over 20 years at F5. So he has had a very distinct advantage of looking at things coming from, in the great context, coming from the hardware centric era of F5 to completely software defined company and Nginx after they acquired. So he has been leading the solution architecting teams across AP, APJ, and C. So he brings a very global perspective. It will be great treat to the viewers to get to know his views about how Nginx is being deployed by very large organizations globally. So stay tuned and listen to this podcast, like it, share it, and subscribe to it. Hi, Lauren. How are you doing?
I'm very good, Sachin. How about you?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's always great to talk to you about not just Nginx, but about overall application delivery platform and a lot of new developments that happen around it. But for the audience purpose, I want to uh, let them get insight into how you have seen this journey. You have been in F5 for a long time. So how you have seen F5 morphing from a hardware company to software company, and then we'll come to your association with Nginx. So first,
Okay,
please give your background to the audience.
okay. So thanks for having me on that podcast, Sachin. Really appreciate it and really enjoy to be there and to share things with the community, with the customers, with folks in India and beyond India. With internet now, people can just dial in from anywhere in the world. But yeah, briefly, what my journey at F5 has been. It's been quite a journey. It's been more than 20 years now, so quite a long time. But the whole thing is, yeah, we started a few years back with the old architectures of applications. So if you remember at the time, it was the three-tier architectures with web servers, application tiers, and backend, and all of those needed to be load balanced. That was also the time when firewall weren't powerful enough, so they had to be load balanced at some point. And then on and on, IDS, IPS, same thing had to be load balanced at the time. So it was a very interesting time where you had to kind of double everything. So double firewall means double load balancer, and then we had to sell a lot of hardware. And after that, we have been through, I would say, the appearance of virtualization. VMware, I would say, came into play, Citrix as well. And then customers started to virtualize most of their technologies. Hence, they asked us, how can you also virtualize and make your technology more software available? And that's one thing that we started to see with what we call virtual edition. Because as you know, F5 is a piece of hardware, but on top of it, there is a software. which is a kind of controlling the whole hardware capability that we have there. And from that point on, we have virtualized that operating system and that application into a virtual edition that we spread out, I would say, into clouds, into on-premise virtualized environments. And from that, we started to be more and more software aware, if I can make that word game. And moving from that point on, yes, we had been more connecting more and more to developers, to software architects, beyond what we used to do, which were more hardware infrastructure people. So very interesting times. And today, yes, we are, I would say, mostly software, and this is the drive for F5 today, to do more software.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I mean, especially for people like you and me, we are having seen hardware-centric infrastructure, hardware-centric discussions with the customer. Everything has moved to software, and I know not too many people would be able to connect with that thought. Uh, but
It sounds like old people talking, but
yes. So let's talk about the modern thing. Okay. And so NGINX perfectly fits that bill. I remember in 2013 when the first talk started happening around NGINX, there was a lot of excitement. So I want to hear first your association with NGINX, and I will share some of my interesting association from those days. So you've been in F5 and then you saw NGINX getting acquired by F5.
yeah. Yeah, so it's very interesting. In fact, along our hardware journey, we felt like we were kind of disconnected from the software people, meaning developers, line of businesses, where they were really embracing that digital transformation. And we were, I would say, owning a very hardware-centric, very infrastructure language in opposition to those new people talking about software, speed of innovation, speed of release, adding new capabilities, rolling out everywhere in the world. So it was very, very, very interesting because for us it was what is that? This is really a new shift that we need to kind of understand ourselves, but also to kind of jump on that bandwagon as well. So from that, I would say observation, that's where we started to explore a lot of those software technologies. For instance, we acquired as well a software proxy. If you remember, that was called Line Rate, which was a proxy, pure software based, to kind of start touching to that software delivery, software operations. And then we found out that it wasn't sufficient enough. Then we explored, and then came to approach NGINX. And the acquisition of NGINX came late, I would say in time, happened in 2019. And then from that point on, it's been part of F5, I would say, arsenal, if I may, but also taught us a lot on how to deal with software, to approach the developer community, to integrate the infrastructure and that software piece, and also kind of bundle the whole thing with security and to make it, I would say, more consistent along the application delivery chain. But the other thing which is really interesting is that that technology of NGINX has been very successful so far. It originates from a developer, of course, in Russia, Igor, who had to face a performance and capacity issue. And then he worked on his side, on his own for quite some time before releasing in public or to the public NGINX in 2004. Okay, so that was the first, I would say, open source release of NGINX at the time. And as the success, I would say, and the adoption of that technology has been growing since then, NGINX, I would say, the folks started and felt the need to kind of structure operations around that software technology. Then they built, I would say, a proper business entity in 2010, and then started to build commercial offerings on top of that software. So 2012, starting to provide tech support for customers. So having, I would say, more industrial or operationalized operations on top of NGINX. And then in 2013, started then to provide a commercial version with advanced features compared to the open source version. And from that point on, we had seen, I would say, those two branches, which were kind of dancing on two different feet, if I may. One more business centric, more business oriented, towards more technological oriented with the open source one.
I remember those days, association with NGINX that goes back to 2014, actually 13, as you said. And when NGINX wanted to become a commercial company coming out from, I mean, not just remaining open source community. And so we started working with NGINX as a first partner, I think first partner worldwide, and brought it to India and in Southeast Asia, of course. But it was interesting time. And as we talked earlier, that how things were changing from hardware-centric discussions to software-centric discussions. I remember by 2017 or so, the focus used to be, I saw those old white papers where we say how to compete against F5 load balancers.
They
So
still float around our SharePoint repository, you know. Those documents are not totally gone for now.
absolutely. But one of the key things that really touched the heart of the developers was its modernness. And I remember the key thing was the focus was that how NGINX fits into the modern architecture. And what had happened at that point of time was all the your access was happening mobile centric, and there
Mhm.
was huge push towards mobile first environment.
Yes.
And Nginx, by its own design, and you can talk more about that, by its own design, was really doing well, and people started feeling that impact, that how that design has changed, the way your applications now getting accessed. Because I can say 2007 was the first iPhone that came out, and by 2013, 14, everything was appification, what we used to call those days, appification of the enterprise apps had started happening. So how Nginx was really fitting that bill was amazing. And microservices was another key focus areas. That time I remember we were as Ashnik, we actually were partnering with Docker, the original Docker company. So those were things going very well hand in hand. And so that modernness, if you just we want to for the viewers give that context as to what was that from the application from the Nginx's architecture point of view made it really modern at that point of time, and then we will come to what that still is relevant in the current modern architecture. So to
Yeah.
the viewers, we are not just talking about the past, but we will talk about the present and the future, how Nginx is really addressing the key needs as it evolves.
Yeah.
So let's first get the context of mobile first and microservices
Yes.
era.
So we live in an era right now where we're quite spoiled, right? We have 5G everywhere. We have hundreds of megabits per second on phones and things like that. But you mentioned 2017, 2013. Honestly, at that time, it was 3G, GPRS when you were unlucky, and a lot of latency. And of course, everyone wanted to have a good user experience. So they wanted to have something which responds quickly, which was performant, we could handle a lot of users with, I would say, limited resources in terms of capacity. So all those things, I would say, meant and pushed everyone to consider software technologies which were powerful and lightweight enough to scale. At that time, if we looked at most of the data sheets at the time, it was like the minimum or small application needed like 4 CPUs, 8 gig of RAMs, and things like that. Today, That sounds ridiculous, but back then, that was quite an amount of resources. Okay, so NGINX really fit, I would say, that bill in the sense that it was the first, I would say, application server or web server, which was capable of handling a high load with low latency to help customers to start having that online and digital presence. Okay, and that architectural design of NGINX has been its strength since day one. So that mini architecture of workers and handling connections at scale, being able to consolidate different functions, being able to kind of intervene along the line of the life of a connection, adding processes, adding process along the way as well. Integrate with ecosystem of application bits like running PHP or Python code or things like that. So bring along all the things which were making, I would say, the heart of an application, made NGINX really the solution of choice for developers, namely, in fact, and then make that transition from development environment to production smooth and easier. It's not a different technology. It's something that I use to kind of experiment while coding and developing the application, and then release it in production and making sure that yes, it would work and handle the load. That has been, I would say, so far the key element of it. Along the way, few other things have been added to NGINX. So the capabilities like, for instance, NGINX JavaScript to help customizing functions and adapt to different use cases, to kind of bypass some processes when it's needed, just to enhance and improve the user experience, have been things which were making NGINX stand apart. Most of the other application components were quite rigid in a way. You had one configuration file, you made one change, you had to stop, bring down the whole services, and then bring it up, which wasn't the case for NGINX. Or if you had to do it with NGINX, it was so quick, so you could do it without user kind of seeing or perceiving that there is a application, a downtime, or anything like that. So that really helped into, I would say, releasing more capabilities from an application perspective, addressing more use cases, so telcos, banking mainly, online gaming as well. The time was kind of booming, which made NGINX go bigger and bigger in most of the industry. Hence, there are statistics showing that, yeah, 60% at some point in time of the web presence was powered by NGINX. Today, it's something like 45%, which is quite significant if you look at it still. Okay, so that, I would say, lightweight side of NGINX and flexibility of NGINX really help application to transition from the old world, legacy mode, to this modern world. And the other thing which is really interesting about NGINX is, since day one, that lightweight side of NGINX was really suitable to, you mentioned microservices, right? Now we're talking about Kubernetes and things like that. But a few years back, Kubernetes is quite a young technology. I think we celebrated the 10 years of Kubernetes this year. So between Kubernetes and I would say legacy application, it was Docker, like you mentioned, Docker Swarm and those kind of things, or those orchestration technologies to get microservices and containers to be run. But again, that has to be run with consumption resources at the lowest as possible. Hence, NGINX was again the best fit. And that brings us, I would say, along the line to Kubernetes, where the lightweightness of NGINX brings it to a natural fit into the Kubernetes. And it's not a surprise that the defaulting REST consent that the community has picked was NGINX to perform the role of main REST controller in the Kubernetes environments.
Absolutely. And that architecture or event-driven architecture has been so fundamental in terms of creating the efficient handling of the traffic, and that even is applicable today. So if we had to fast forward, it's been now 10, 12 years since the commercial version was launched, and there is a lot that has happened in NGINX, but at the same time, the lot has happened on the customer end, on the applications end, and today's infrastructure looks very different than what it was 12 years back. So let us look at, and most of the viewers are basically want to know that in today's environment, why do you think Nginx is still relevant to me? So one of the points I try to tell that, look, in those days we used to say in the initial days that of the top 1,000 busiest websites, 35% of them are powered by Nginx. Today, do we have to say that? I mean, the simple statement is every busy site, the top 10 busiest sites are powered by Nginx. So that relevance continues. But of course, the way applications are being accessed, the way AI has made a huge inroads into the modern way of applications has changed the way we are writing, the way we are now calling the applications. So let's talk about that. And in that context, how Nginx really is playing important role, especially when we see today everything is API driven.
So there's one thing which is very important with NGINX is that community which is supporting NGINX and pushing hard on innovation, bring it to new capabilities, bring it to new environment, bring it to new devices as well. Just for instance, NGINX can be deployed on a Raspberry, very simply. NGINX is part of a lot of IoT deployments because of that lightweight side of it, but also because it has been able to follow the evolution, support the new protocols as long as they were emerging, and then being served with high performances. So today, when developer has to kind of write up a new application or modern application with the modern protocols, I think he would have the choice between 5, 6, 10 protocols compared to before where it was like just HTTP and that's it. Now you have gRPC, GraphQL, MQTT, UDP, Quick, HTTP2, whatever. You have to have, I would say, a solution that gives you that flexibility to pick whatever you're most comfortable with and roll it out in production and making sure and be sure that it's gonna run regardless of protocol or way that you are having to deploy your application.
And I would add one more thing that the developers want, that give me one solution and don't give me different solutions for each of the problems. Give me one technology that solves this in an easy manner, in a way that I can control. And that is where I think Nginx shines a lot, that whether it is your REST APIs or gRPC or HTTP2, whatever you are looking at, you have a great and simple to use, easy to use technology, which efficiently, and again, I think another thing that developers look for is efficiency, that it should be able to handle because today the traffic is not just web traffic, right? It's machine to machine traffic that has completely changed the data that we generate. That's amazing, right?
Yeah. So for instance, you were mentioning REST APIs, for instance. 90% of the internet traffic today is estimated to be API related. And those APIs, like you said, are not just HTTP. You have GraphQL, gRPC, Quick APIs, or those kind of things. WebSocket as well. Again, like you said, for efficiency sake, you have to have something that you can control the same way. And you are right on saying not multiplying solutions, because when a developer would automate a process or workflow, yeah, it is time saved for not today, but for the month or the years to come. Hence, it is important to rely on something which can be flexible and adapt to his requirement. On the other hand, uh, enterprises have different requirements. I want to have visibility, I want to have security, I want to have segregation of duties and things like that. Hence, a solution that gives me as well that flexibility is very, I would say, kind of eligible to get that seat to the table. And again, that's where NGINX really brings those kind of benefits to the developers and to the users mainly.
Those are great, I mean, great things and very close to our heart. And most of the time we talk about observability, security. We will come to those points. One of the key things that I wanted to bring up is about in the current or in the modern way of development, AI has become part and parcel of it. We have now not just the API calls, but we are talking about inference traffic. We are talking about accessing the models, giving access to the models, and which is very tricky, which everybody is wary about. That how do I ensure there is a security of it? We are talking about very large amount of data flowing when we are talking about models. In that context, what are the areas that you see that Nginx has an important role to play, not just another piece of software, but important role to play to ensure safety? And I feel, in my opinion, the trust is the most important point in the case of when you're talking about AI, when you're talking about your models, when you're talking about embeddings. So let's talk about that in your opinion and what you have seen. What are the areas where Nginx plays a role?
Yeah, so that's very interesting because again, all the AI movement I would say is supported and pushed by developers, the developers community, right? So most of the emerging technologies when it comes to AI are primarily open source, and then of course need to have, I would say, component that will fulfill some needs. And the needs for security, the need for performance, the need for web serving, the need for authorization today in most of the cases are fulfilled by NGINX. And you were asking what I've seen. One example which is really interesting is we work with NVIDIA quite a lot. And as part of all their SDKs, all their reference architectures, all their platforms, NGINX is embedded. That's very, very telling, in fact. When it comes to inferencing, the way to do security is with NGINX for JOT authentication, for header insertion, for OIDC authentication. These are the things that NGINX provide right out of the box that developers don't have to worry about. It's there, maybe already integrated by the provider of the platform like NVIDIA or anyone else. And then, I can just leverage that and save time, go deploy, apply that to my specific use case. So that's really one thing that we have seen, again, which shows, again, the relevance of it. And when it comes to those new protocols that AI is also kind of dragging along, MCP, A2A, WebSocket, E2E, all those type of protocols are having quite specific requirements, long-lived connections, authentications, or rate limiting, or these kind of things. And of course, all that runs on Kubernetes or as microservices. What technology today bring those things, those values, those attributes? Yes, NGINX. And like I was saying, it's part of the platform where you would do your test on your laptop or your servers or your cloud environment. And once it works, publish it on a GitHub. NGINX is embedded in it. So we see today that it's really fills that gap of security component when it comes to delivering those inference services for most of the applications. And there's no I would say, better witness than NVIDIA today to kind of prove that, yeah, this is the technology that they use, and hence it fills the purpose. So yeah, customers could definitely use it. And we have seen customers of NGINX across the globe adopting NGINX. I would say not only because NVIDIA is recommending it, but because it addresses that specific needs for authorization, authentication that is key, and even more and more when it comes to AI applications. So inferencing, of course, to know who is submitting a prompt, who should receive that response from the LLM, or is that specific MCP server or agent has the right access or the right privileges to do that prompt request, for instance. You have to carry along the traffic those attributes, and NGINX is flexible enough to let developers add, extend, complement those services quite easily.
That's a very interesting development, and especially authentication has come right inside the apps. It's no more a peripheral thing. That every request, as you said, for even for a prompt, even for accessing models. And I definitely see enterprises very soon will be developing their own models, not just rely on the ready things. So, and another thing that I see Nginx being there as a part of the modern architecture, that when you're talking about AI, every request we are talking about at times huge amount of data going through embeddings, or for access to RAG or vector database create so much of traffic. I mean, this is unprecedented. We have not seen earlier in the earlier days that application within the environment generating so much of data flowing across, not just even outside the application, within itself. And in that case, streaming, using it as for streaming or for caching has become so important. And every application architect today is using Nginx for that purpose.
And like you were saying, for the sake of consistency again, I may need a load balancer in front of my LLMs. I may need a load balancer in front of my RAG. I may need a load balancer or reverse proxy in front of the front end of my AI app. Why would I complex my life picking a different technology and configuring it? So NGINX can be the kind of polyglot or chameleon, let's say, to address to address all those needs, and that's what we're starting to see more and more. And you were mentioning, I would say, the amount of traffic. You also need to have visibility around this amount of traffic. Who is doing what? What is the latency from the client, from the LLM? There was no better technology that OpenTelemetry to kind of standardize those data and to graph them, to query them. And of course, NGINX has a module now which is open source and optimized by IFI since acquisition, just to make sure that, yeah, we can definitely collect those data, enrich the analytics and the visibility without impacting performance of the application. So all those kind of requirements are more and more fulfilled and integrated to the workflow and follow the requirements wherever they are.
Another characteristics that I see of the modern architecture is that now we have so many moving parts inside the applications. The key, then in that case, observability has become even more complex. And what I noticed, the beauty of Nginx is how well it is suited, and especially when we have now hotel collector. And I want to hear from you, and I want the viewers to know. I'm very excited about it, that how it has made it very seamless for developers, for your observability experts to get Nginx data, understand it as to what's happening inside your applications or those moving parts. Do you want to talk about that part, especially the observability, the hotel collectors?
Yeah. That's really exciting, and that's really something that we see as a requirement for more and more of our customers. Having that ability to have something which is standard. So OpenTelemetry has really made a big impact from that perspective. I would say in the community, I think it's the number two most active project from the CNCF, if I'm not mistaken. So again, just to kind of highlight how important it is. But the fact is, again, having all those data collected or enriched when they traverse the NGINX proxy itself, just to give the capability to trace whatever the application is doing. And interestingly enough, F5 has been a very strong supporter of OpenTelemetry. We have a team of people contributing to OpenTelemetry open source project, creating new protocols like OpenTelemetry Arrow, working with companies like Microsoft to make, I would say, a better use of OpenTelemetry Arrow and make it available to the community and to the customers. And from that point on and from that perspective, F5 is also making sure that OpenTelemetry is available and easily available to developers. So the module that I was talking about has been a project that we kind of took on board. We kind of write it off and start over to rewrite it with, I think, 50 to 60% performance improvement. So now you could definitely use it natively without any issue. But that's for the OpenTelemetry tracing, right? So which gives you, I would say, the hops, the performance data, the latency, the headers in the request and things like that, that you could definitely aggregate with something like Jaeger or any ELK, Splunk, whatever technology that has the OpenTelemetry collectors and can graph those whole things and have a glimpse of how the application works, how a request flows into the application, and pinpoint rapidly where an issue may appear at any point in time. But the other thing that we have starting to add, and no later than March this year, we have added two other capabilities to OpenTelemetry for NGINX, and OpenTelemetry metrics, and soon OpenTelemetry logs to NGINX agent, which is also an open source project, where you can just add that agent to your NGINX deployment, and of course, stream all the metrics, stream all the logs from that instance to any hotel collector, and then have a good understanding and viewing of your application flow, your application data, your application metrics, and as well as the logs. So really, really happy to see that expansion around that standard which is being made. And I'm really looking forward to the days when we're gonna be able to publish dashboards into NGINX itself based on those telemetry data. And as you know, we have now a dashboard on the NGINX Plus version. I wish and I hope that at some point in time, we might kind of refresh or revamp that dashboard to surface those data that we are collecting with the agent or the OpenTelemetry stack that we have on NGINX.
It is such an important area, and I mean, I'm so excited to see that how NGINX is addressing, because when we talk to the infrastructure architects at the large enterprises, so on one hand, application architects, application developers are excited, but also the infrastructure team, for them having this is so critical, so important, and they are able to get what they were looking for. In that context, I see another area where NGINX plays a role compared to what 10 years back, 20 years back it was, because those days the infrastructure used to be on-prem or my data center. Then, of course, evolved the cloud. Now we have multi-cloud, and going beyond that, we have now the edge network. And each of these cases, the relevance of NGINX its capabilities, whether it is lightweight web server, whether it is load balancer, whether it is API gateway, whether you are running on edge, whether you are running on multi-cloud environment. How I find this so versatile is amazing part. I mean, I can truly say that there are very few pieces of software that really make appeal to diverse audience, whether you are application developer, application architect, to your infrastructure consultant and architect. You and I find everybody loves NGINX being there.
True. Not just NGINX as we know it, I would say. NGINX has a solution which is not only versatile but also consistent and manageable. So that's one thing that I would say since acquisition we're investing a lot in is how to simplify the operations or how to remove the pain or the load from operating a fleet of NGINX per se. And there is also one thing which is interesting that I kind of forgot when we spoke about AI. Today, when people are running AI apps, most of the components are written in Python. And we have a piece of technology coming from NGINX, which is also very interesting when it comes to running Python code, which is called NGINX Unit, which really serve the purpose of accelerating or running those applications quicker and secure with all the metrics, all the visibility, and all the performance that NGINX provide. So for a developer, I think it's really exciting and interesting to kind of have kind of a Lego stack with NGINX, NGINX Unit, put everything together and have a consistency in terms of operations and visibility. So yeah, I can definitely have a quick and easy graph of my app and see what's going on and where I need to put some effort to optimize the whole thing.
NGINX unit, I think it's a well-kept secret of NGINX, or if it needs to be talked a lot more. I think we should do a separate deep dive on NGINX unit itself to let developers know what they can do more about it. Because I remember being there in the room when it was presented first time. It's been a long time and it's matured a lot, I'm pretty sure, but it's still a well-kept secret.
Yeah.
And another part, but I saw what after FY took, or they did a great job of releasing this NIM, and why it is so relevant and important is today we have so much of proliferation of NGINX. We talked about it from edge to your in the heart of application. So it's a proliferation, and in that context, your life becomes a little complicated when you have so many instances for any software for that matter. But what I saw in NGINX Instance Manager is a great job of making life easier. Do you want to talk more about that? How it
Yeah.
does?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes, I would say, from discussions that we were having with customers, right? So I would say a developer publishing one app, two apps on his end without strong requirements, that's okay. Yeah, you could do a Python script and then configure the whole thing, start it up, and off you go. But when you're running an enterprise and business and critical applications, that's where you need more consistency. And like you just said, I need tools to make my life easier. So this is one of the asks that we have heard from our customers. Make my life easier. Hence we invested into that solution, NGINX Instant Manager, to give developers APIs so they can automate a lot of their operations, generate a configuration, deploy a configuration, sync a configuration, uh, make NGINX more accessible as well. You don't have to be an expert on NGINX, but if you leverage what we call templates as part of NGINX Instant Manager, have, I would say, simple UI or simple form to generate a full working NGINX configuration and deploy it instantly via UI or via API. So again, I pretend to be a NGINX expert and use the service. And other things which are interesting is have that dashboard, quick dashboard where I can see everything my NGINX is doing in terms of performance, in terms of version as well. Like I was saying, enterprises, they have to show their compliance status at some point. And it's not funny to go after 10, 15 developers or teams to say, hey, I need to know which version of NGINX you're running, which are the CVEs that you're running on it. And then by tomorrow, 3 p.m., I need that report because the auditor is coming at 5 p.m. So I do need to have that information. So NGINX Instance Manager comes into play as well to kind of offload this task and give that report in one place and maintain, I would say, on a regular basis. So you know what you're running, you know what you have to patch, and you don't rely forcibly on everything the community will do from that perspective. So it's really interesting to see how we invest in those areas. And the latest, I would say, developments of NGINX Instance Manager went into making it even simpler. So it hasn't have to be running on a beefy server with a lot of memory, disk and things like that. It could run as container. And yes, I just spin it up, do whatever I want, spin it off, and then everything is done quite easily. So really, 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 really exciting to see how our customers are adopting it to kind of automate the operation, to connect it to GitOps as well, GitHub, GitLab, and have it as a repository for either a certificate, configuration files, and things like that, and then have automation to stitch everything together and deploy things easily with the intermediate of me. So it's really, really exciting, and we're working towards making more capabilities, more user-friendly capabilities, and to reduce the toil as well. One thing that we are hearing a lot from our customers is a scarcity of resources or skills, and it's becoming more and more common to hear from customers, I don't have enough skills or advanced skills to operate or to use or to make the most of my software capabilities like NGINX, for instance. So I would use basic capabilities, but if I had something that would expose those advanced capabilities or make it easier to leverage, of course I would sign a check right away to so that's really interesting to see that yes, we're bringing those capabilities, and yes, that's echoing quite well with our customers.
And another area everybody should be using NGINX Instance Manager is it doesn't discriminate between NGINX Plus and NGINX Community version. It brings the data point to you. So in an organization, if you have a mix of them, you get great value of NGINX Instance Manager. And that's a very, very important part of, and I think FI did a very good job of, releasing something that gives value to open source users as well as to the NGINX Plus users.
True. And the latest, I would say, type of evolution, and again, addition to that, ease of use is to open that NGINX One console as well. When customers are allowed to use resources for the cloud to operate their infrastructure, they have the same set of capabilities from what they have with NIM on-prem. So having the ability to manage a fleet of, like you said, a diverse fleet of open source and commercial version, to operate the security configuration, to operate, I would say, the templates, to have multiple users collaborating or co-working on different environments, different applications, different configuration. That really makes the life of everyone easy. And like I was kind of making fun of a scenario where you had to report on the CVE status of the infrastructure, NGINX One or NGINX Instance Manager will give you that report in one screen. So if your auditor just look over your shoulder, he could find that set of information quite quickly.
So this is, Laurent, we saw how NGINX is so relevant in the modern infrastructure, um, as well as to the developers, as well as to the infrastructure team. Is there anything more you want people to know about Nginx? It is already like a Swiss knife that for every person and for every type of environment, it is applicable, relevant, efficient. But is there anything more that you want to add to that?
So in terms of capability, NGINX is really getting more and more innovation to adopt and to cater for the new use cases. So there are things that we are working on to make it more suitable for AI. So MCP, for instance, is one thing that we are kind of thinking of. There are projects on the open source to support MCP protocol natively in NGINX. So we'll see that moving forward. There are things which are also around the management of certificates, for instance, as well. So again, make people's life easy when it comes to have and rotate certificate frequently to avoid hackers to harvest the data and then decode them when they have post-quantum cryptography or quantum resources to decipher the data. Having the ability to secure the application right now with PQC post quantum cryptography right now available, easy to configure, and then make sure that yes, I protect my application for tomorrow. So yeah, one thing which is really interesting and important to know is NGINX has had a long run, but it's not, I would say, stalled in the world. It's still evolving, really getting, I would say, the new capabilities to match, I would say, the requirement. For instance, if we lie to the Kubernetes environment, the gateway fabric, which is the new implementation of the ingress controller, is available for Nginx with all the CRDs and HTTP routes, gRPC route, and things like that CNCF is pushing hard on. Again, yeah, really something to explore and to look into because it fits the needs of today, but is ready as well to address the need of tomorrow.
Very, very interesting. And I find the use like 10 years back how excited we were about Nginx's relevance and in its modern architecture. It continues, and there are very few technologies that find their relevance even after. I mean, it's been almost 20 years when actually original Nginx was released in 2004, and in 2013 we are talking about the commercial version, and now we are in 2025. How it has retained its relevance, importance in this architecture is amazing. It's amazing. And I'm sure now viewers will find lot many use cases, lot many things for which they can use Nginx. Will find it efficient. Will make use of Nginx Instance Manager kind of technologies to make life easier to manage large scale deployment of Nginx. So it's been great to talk to you, Laurent. And
Pleasure.
for the viewers, though Laurent is based in Singapore, but he's always traveling, so you might end up catching up with him in large part of Asia most of the time. Uh,
I do. I do, and I'm happy to visit, to meet customers, to meet on different events, and talk about Nginx again, it's very easy to experiment, to try out and see, and we moved all the resources to GitHub, which makes it even better that people can interact with us via that platform, be it for documentation, be it for the product itself, be it for the Nginx agent, be it for the commercial version or the open source versions, and really makes it, again, up to date, like you were saying, evolving and adapting to the changes in the world. So it stays relevant to most of the requirements that we're saying.
all right, great. Thank you for your time, Laurent. And probably we will see you again on this podcast talking about some more exciting things and maybe Nginx unit. We can go deep dive
Happy
next time.
to yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you, Lauren.